June 19th, 1975. Shortly before midnight, police respond to an emergency call from a modest home in Oak Park, Illinois.
At the scene, they find a dead body in a pool of blood. This man has been shot 7 times, once in the back of the head, 5 times in the neck, and once straight through the mouth.
When police start to investigate the scene, they noticed $1,400 in his pocket. And behind the body is a pan of partially cooked sausages that are still on the stove. So they think, okay, well, this wasn't a robbery gone wrong.
They quickly realize that this is not just your average victim. This is Sam Giancana, one of the bosses of the Chicago outfit.
He's a household name. He's in the papers all the time. He's on TV. He's dating movie stars. He's hanging out with Frank Sinatra. But all the while, people also know that he's a mobster.
This is one of the biggest mob hits in American history, and a lot of people do seem to benefit from Giancana's death.
He's connected to everything. And maybe someone wants to take out Giancana because of what he knows. The Chicago outfit, the federal government, the CIA, there's so many people that would have been happy to see him gone.
And there really aren't any obvious clues as to who the killer was or what the motive was for the shooting. So what we're left with is a mystery that is now over 50 years old.
But in the late 1950s, Giancana makes a fateful decision. He becomes directly involved with the federal government.
Outside of traditional organized crime, he has a relationship with the CIA. He's allegedly taking meetings with JFK while he's president.
Giancana was trying to play everything against the middle and expected that the White House would take a kinder approach to organized crime, but it was the exact opposite.
He has been connected to organized crime essentially from his childhood, and the feds want to find out exactly what he knows.
In 1965, after years of trying, federal agents believe they finally found a way to bring down Giancana. They put him before a grand jury investigating the Chicago mob's alleged racketeering and narcotics operations.
They give him immunity from prosecution. They say, if you talk, you're not going to get prosecuted. You don't have to plead the fifth, and you're going to be okay.
They ask him questions, he doesn't answer them, and he winds up being put in jail for a year for contempt of court. But the other members of the mafia don't like this public attention at all.
After Giancana's release from prison, he ends up going into exile in Mexico. In 1974, he gets deported back to the United States, and upon his arrival, he's subpoenaed.
He's been called in to testify for a U.S. Senate inquiry looking into the CIA's activities, specifically the possibility that the mob worked with the CIA to kill Fidel Castro.
That caused great concern from a lot of very powerful, dangerous individuals.
The murder of mobster Sam Giancana in June 1975 comes at a time of intense scrutiny on government corruption in America. President Richard Nixon has resigned in the Watergate scandal, and illegal activity by American spy agencies is being exposed by the media. Some believe that Sam Giancana's murder wasn't just about protecting mob secrets. Is it possible he was killed to protect the CIA? In 1975, Sam Giancana is subpoenaed by the Church Committee to testify about the CIA's involvement with organized crime to kill Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. But the committee is also tasked with investigating the possible connection between the CIA and one of the most consequential events in U.S. history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
It's something that is one of the darkest days in American history, and we still don't know, 60 years later, what exactly happened.
In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson creates the Warren Commission to investigate the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and they conclude that Lee Harvey Oswald is a lone actor in the assassination. No one else is involved.
An awful lot of people were bothered by the Warren Commission not looking at other scenarios and argued that there were more plausible theories than the lone gunman. And one of them has to do in part with the idea that Sam Giancana was involved.
By bringing Giancana to Washington in 1975, these investigators were hoping to find out whatever Giancana may know about Castro. But while they're at it, they could also ask him about the JFK assassination.
It's really not a crazy conspiracy theory the way that sometimes it's made out to be, because we know there were quite a few people that had connections to Giancana that were within the radius of that assassination.
Imagine if Giancana testified and said, hey, not only did the CIA use me for Castro, but they also used me to kill JFK. Now, whether it is the government or the mafia that killed him, either way, Sam dies because he knows too much.
Most everyone is in agreement that Lee Harvey Oswald is the one who shot the president. But did he really act alone?
There is a lot of strong evidence that maybe the mafia is also involved. You sound crazy connecting all the dots there, but it makes sense. Lee Harvey Oswald grows up in New Orleans. His uncle is a bookie who works for Carlos Marcello, who is in charge of the mob in New Orleans, and a friend of Sam Giancana. Lee Harvey Oswald, when he's a teenager, is mentored by this person, David Ferry, who is also a private investigator that works with Carlos Marcello.
After the assassination of Kennedy, Oswald was murdered by Jack Ruby, who was a well-known mafia associate of Giancana's.
In 1975, after Johnny Roselli testifies before the church committee, his lawyer floated that Johnny would not only be willing to talk about Castro, but he also knew something about the JFK assassination. And it was at that point that Roselli winds up being murdered, just like Giancana.
The really interesting twist here is that Sam Giancana and the mob helped get President Kennedy elected.
It's pretty much acknowledged historically that Sam Giancana helped the Kennedy campaign, both in West Virginia and to some degree in Illinois, with the election there. Giancana was telling other mobsters, I'm supporting Kennedy because I think he'll go easy on us.
Sam Giancana does all this work behind the scenes to get John F. Kennedy elected president, expecting that his life is going to get easier, and it does not.
The mob became very angry and bitter at the fact that almost immediately, when Kennedy got into office, he came after the mafia with an assault that had never been bigger or more widespread.
A year later, in 1961, JFK's younger brother, Bobby Kennedy, who was serving as Attorney General, goes after Jimmy Hoffa, who's the head of the Teamsters, which has connections to the mob. RFK also goes after New Orleans mobster Carlos Marcello, who gets deported to Guatemala. So Giancana allegedly vows to take revenge on JFK.
Giancana was known as a very violent guy, one of the most violent people that the Chicago mob had ever known, that you don't fool around with Sam Giancana, or you're gonna find a bullet in your head.
In 1992, Sam Giancana's brother and his godson publish Double Cross. The book claims to reveal the mob boss's most shocking secrets, including what he allegedly said about the Kennedy assassination.
In his book, Double Cross, Chuck Giancana says, one day, Sam said to him, look, we, meaning we, the mob, and the CIA, took care of Kennedy together.
He states that Sam told him that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA plant and that it was Giancana that ordered the murder of John F. Kennedy.
So, to break it down in its most simple form, Oswald was the patsy, and then Ruby was the guy sent to take him out. And that's a typical mob protocol. You assign somebody to do the job, and then you assign somebody to get rid of the guy that did the job.
There's no way for Chuck Giancana to corroborate his story. And there's no way that we will ever know what Sam Giancana might have testified to in 1975. But if that is what Sam Giancana was going to say, that is an explosive issue.
If Sam Giancana really had something to do with the assassination of JFK in collusion with the CIA, that is information that the CIA does not want out, and it is good reason to kill Sam Giancana.